mortgage or sell great assets. That's what former President Donald Trump says he will have to do to cover the massive judgment in his New York civil fraud case as he appeals the ruling. On Truth Social this morning, Trump continued to rail against the judge in the case and make baseless accusations that his legal troubles equate to election interference, despite the fact that it is he, not President Biden, who's charged with conspiracy to overturn a free and fair election. Joining me now is law professor at Syracuse University, investigative journalist David K. Johnston. David, good morning. This Truth Social post, we obviously don't put all of them on TV, but this one stood out as it just came out earlier this morning. He's basically saying he's going to have to sell off assets to get out of this situation that he's in. You've been looking into his financial situation for years. What do you make of all this? Is he going to have to sell off assets? Is that coming? Maybe soon.
I think it is, and I think it's soon. Donald has some properties that are valuable, but they have underlying mortgages. And just like happens to a homeowner, Donald faces this problem. You have a first mortgage on your property, you need some money, you say, I'll get a HELOC or a second mortgage. The first bank has to agree. And I think it's pretty clear the first banks are not willing to agree. So that's very limiting on Donald. And the reason they're likely not to agree is exactly what this case is about. Inflating the value of assets, claiming they're worth, in some cases, 16 and 30 times what the market shows that they're worth.
Yeah, I mean, David, I guess there's the issue of, does he have the money? For years, he has told the American people he's a billionaire, he's rich. He had a show all about this, The Apprentice. He was in Home Alone 2 and so on. I mean, this has been his life, portraying himself as this American story of a billionaire who is larger than life. And then all of a sudden he's saying, what's going on? I have to sell off all my assets.
Well, Jim, this has always been a con. Way back in 1990, when I showed that Trump wasn't a billionaire, he went around for a couple of months calling me a liar until he had to put a document in the public record that showed that he was not a billionaire. And later a document showing he was worth minus $325 million, which means you and I are worth more than Donald Trump, at least at that time. Today, it's the same thing. 9 years ago, when he came down the escalator to announce his campaign, he said he was worth more than $10 billion. If you're worth $10 billion, coming up with $500 million may be painful, but it isn't that hard.
Yeah, and he is saying this. We put this up on screen. He says that this bond that he has to pay is, quote, unconstitutional, un-American, unprecedented, practically impossible for any company, including one as successful as mine. Again, what we may be witnessing in the coming days, he has no choice, right? He is going to have to do something, make some kind of financial maneuver here in order to post this bond.
Right. He has every right to appeal. He's already filed an appeal, and that will proceed. But in the meantime, unless he comes up with the bond or cash or persuades the intermediate appellate court in New York to allow him to post a smaller amount of money, he wants to put up $100 million, which probably tells you how much cash he has access to, then the state can move to begin forcing the sale of his properties. And the state will have a duty, as will the monitor, to maximize value. But this is a fire sale, Jim. It would be a fire sale if the state does it. It'll be a fire sale if Donald does it. And he's known this is coming for months, and he hasn't set himself up to take care of it.
And he continues to attack the judge in the case and the other civil servants overseeing these trials, despite being repeatedly told not to. Is there anything at this point that gets him to stop doing that? Even paying this enormous bond, I suppose.
Yeah, no, this is just who Donald is. In the 2016 campaign, he was asked, well, since you're a Christian, when was the last time you asked God for forgiveness? And Donald said, what? Why would I do that? I've never done anything in my life that requires asking forgiveness. That's who he is. He believes that he's special, that we should treat him as special, and that anything that goes against him, well, you're the bad guy. That's something the notorious Roy Cohn taught him. Law enforcement comes after you, attack them. They're dishonest, they're corrupt, you're pure and clean, And even if it's obvious that something you said isn't true or did is wrong, you never, ever give an inch. You just maintain your lies. And he's very good at doing that, Jim.
All right, David K. Johnston, I know you're an expert on all this. Thank you very much for giving us your time this morning. We really appreciate it. All right, let's discuss more now with CNN's Kristen Holmes, former Republican Congressman Joe Walsh, and founder of Democracy Docket, Mark Elias. Guys, thanks very much for being on with us. Mark, you're there in the studio. I've got Kristen and Joe next to me. Kristen, let me start with you first. I mean, I was talking about this with David just a few moments ago. For years, and you and I know this, we're out on the campaign trail together, Trump and his aides and his allies have talked about how much money he has, how rich he is. And all of a sudden, now he's saying he has to sell off these assets. How does Trump world make any sense of this? What are they saying?
Well, one thing to note also is that it's kind of his professional brand and his political brand.
Yeah.
He tells people, oh, look how rich I am. I could make you this rich if you elect me into office. And that really was a selling point for him in 2016, particularly when you talk to working class voters. Now, if you talk to his team about what exactly they're doing or what they think of this, they point to two things. They argue that there is no billionaire on this planet who is that liquid who could come up with this amount of money. They also blame the underwriters, and they say that they're not going to go anything over 100 million. And if you do talk to financial experts, there's a little bit of a gray area there, because usually you don't have to come up with $500 million.
It's a massive amount of money.
Right, so it's not like there's a precedent for this, that they are saying this and it's not true. It's just kind of like, well, a lot of these underwriters have never been asked about $500 million. They've been asked about lower sums. But as David was saying, they've known about this for months. It's not that he just had to become liquid overnight. They had time to deal with this. So the question is, what exactly happens next? You can hear, obviously, Donald Trump is ranting on social media, saying this is unfair. I'm going to have to sell my assets. I think they hope that there is going to be a stop to this, so that when they can appeal, because that's what he's arguing for, right? That he wants to say that he doesn't have to pay until after his appeal, and that something will come through.
But it's always about delay.
Exactly.
How far can we push this off
Exactly.
before the bill comes due? And Joe, I did want to ask you, and Mark, I wanted to talk to you about this as well. I mean, Trump's continuing use of this extreme, very volatile language. Last night, he made some comments about Jewish Democrats in Israel. Joe, you and I have talked about Israel lots of times. Let's listen to this, talk about it on the other side.
Any Jewish person that votes for Democrats hates their religion, they hate everything about Israel, and they should be ashamed of themselves, because Israel will be destroyed.
Yeah, Joe, what did you think when you saw that?
It's just divisive. Every single word, Jim, that he is uttering and will utter during this campaign is divisive, dividing Jewish people, dividing Americans. Look, it's not going to stop. He's the leader of the Republican Party. He's the Republican Party nominee. He's been a fraud and a con man his whole life. And this entire campaign, Jim, is going to be about him beginning to be held accountable for those crimes. And all he's going to do is cry, bitch, and moan about it. But his followers love it because he's the great victim.
And what else is he going to say at this point? I mean, but Mark, I did want to go to you on this because, I mean, there was also what Trump was saying over the weekend. He keeps speaking in these very extreme terms about the potential dangers to the country if he doesn't win in November. He's used words like bloodbath and bedlam. What are your thoughts on how he keeps speaking in these terms, and what does it mean for the country?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just say I am a proud Jewish Democrat. I have been a Democrat my entire life. I've been a Jew my entire life. I have in a loving community of family and other Jews who are proud Democrats. And so Donald Trump is sowing the same kind of anti-Semitic and wrongful lies that he has throughout his entire career. But to your question, Jim, you know, we saw in 2020 that Donald Trump would say a lot of outrageous things, and it was discounted by many, many Republicans and too many well-intentioned people as just empty rhetoric, that you should take him figuratively but not literally. Well, January 6th showed us that when he wants an insurrection, he will summon an insurrection. So when he says there will be a bloodbath, it is time that we stop discounting it and stop finding ways around it and recognize that his back is against the wall. His back is against the wall in these civil cases. His back is against the wall in the criminal cases that could send him to prison. And he views as winning the presidency as his only ticket out. So as desperate as he was in 2020, as willing as he was to break the rule of law in 2020 and to incite an insurrection in January of 2021, he is more desperate today.